So I've seen a lot of films this month. In fact, I've been doing a thing where I try and watch a film every single day this year. That failed this month, but you know what? It's okay, because I still watched a lot of films. I almost did it. I got real close, and then there was a few times where I forgot or I didn't have time to, but we're gonna be back on track soon. But yeah, I want to talk about some of these films here with you guys, and I'm just gonna warn you guys up front that there's only one film from 2024 that I will be talking about in this video. I've only seen a small handful of new releases, and for the most part, they've been really interesting, and I could make a full video on a lot of them. The only one that I'm talking about here I enjoyed, but I don't have too much to say about it, so I can't justify making a whole video on it. So that's why it's here, and that's why everything else in this video is here, is that it's these are films that I think are very, very interesting, and I want to talk about them, but I don't think that I personally can justify making a whole video on them. That's not to say that the films in this aren't super interesting or aren't worth analyzing. Like, there's a few films in here that I think have a lot to say, but I just don't think that I have a lot to add to that particular conversation. But that's also not to say that these films will never get a video dedicated to them on their own. It's just, as of right now, I don't see myself making one anytime soon. So with that out of the way, let's just hop right on into it. Also, if you want to skip ahead to a particular film that I talk about in this video, I have them all time-stamped down in the description below, so you can do that if you want. Alright, so I'm going to start off with a film that I've already done a video on, but it keeps getting taken down, and I guess, you know, for good reason. Yeah, I'm talking about The Intouchables. Once more, I keep getting copyright claimed on the video, so I've decided I'm just gonna leave it down. It was up for about a week before it got hit anyway, so it's, you know, it's okay, I guess. But I'm just gonna reiterate what I said at the end of the video here so that, you know, the review is somewhere. It's not lost in time. But The Intouchables is based on a true story, and the film follows the friendship that blossoms between a wealthy quadriplegic named Philippe and his caregiver Driss. And this is a feel-good movie. You know, you can't watch this movie and have a bad time with it. You know, it makes sense why it would be on the IMDb top 100, because it's just, you're just filled with joy. You know, you have a newfound appreciation for the world and the people in it. You know, it's making huge strides for realism. You know, it's not like Driss is just this evil man who's like, is after Philippe's money. And don't read too much into that. I don't mean anything by that. And there's no like big emotional fallout between Driss and Philippe. That just doesn't happen. But instead, the film just takes a much more realistic approach to all of these things, and I really, really enjoyed that. That's not to say that this film is like perfect, or I thought this film was perfect. There's like a few things that I don't think fully worked for me. Like, Driss keeps hitting on this one lady, and, you know, at first I really thought they were trying to make them like a emotional, like, romantic pairing, even though I felt like they had no chemistry together. But the film doesn't take that route, and I appreciated that. I think the writers knew that, and they, you know, they wanted to give off that impression. So I guess if that was their goal, was to subvert my expectations, it worked. It's effective. The film really does strive for realism, and I think for the most part it works. You know, it takes the story from being like very, very cheesy to feeling real. You know, it's been a while since I saw The Upside, which is the American remake of this. I can't comment on how this film or how that film approaches these things, but as for this one, I think it's a really, really solid film. I don't think you can have a bad time watching it at all. Alright, so this next film that I'm talking about is We're All Going to the World's Fair. This is probably the most unknown film that I'm going to be talking about here. It's a film directed by Jane Schoenberg, who has a new film out called I Saw the TV Glow, which is a film that I really, really want to see, but I haven't yet. And I'm hoping I can get to it while it's still in theaters, but we'll see what happens. This film follows a young girl named Casey, played by Anna Cobb, who is fantastic in this film, by the way. She does a YouTube horror challenge type of thing called the World's Fair Challenge, and documents her life following that. This film presents a world that feels real, and it feels very, very realistic. Like, it's very much set in our day and age today. Like in the age of YouTube and, you know, content creators, it feels super accurate to this experience. And it's not like a cringy way where like a big budget blockbuster will have like kids doing TikToks in the bathroom or anything like that. It's very much like this girl is lonely and is isolated, and this is the only way she's trying to like break out of that. This is her way of trying to find connection in this world. And so it's probably the most realistic depiction I've ever seen to just YouTube and content creation culture, just in general. It's fascinating how real and how accurate this film is to all of that. The pacing of this film is super slow, but it does so on purpose. You know, it does a great job of just building and creating atmosphere. The opening scene is just Casey just doing multiple takes of her YouTube video. And you know, at face value, you'd be like, oh, this is boring. You know, setting up a camera and trying to get the blocking and everything right is boring. But you also get a sense of who she is in that opening scene. So you can really feel her awkwardness and lack of self-confidence just like from the get-go. And I think that's fascinating. It's like I said, it's just so accurate to just, you know, our modern day culture and the experience of trying to find some kind of meaning in our own lives, just in this new digital age, you know? It's listed as a horror film, and while there is horror elements to it, I don't think you should classify it as a horror film. You know, you think of a horror film, you think of like The Exorcist or Hereditary or Eyes Without a Face. Why the f did my brain go there? No one knows what that is. It's very much a psychological drama. I think that's a better way of describing it. It is more about the character. There's no like, there's no killing. Like there's no blood or, there's no like overtly like things you would normally associate with a horror film are not present in this. It is very much more a drama, and it works really well as a drama. It's a character study of this one kid and her own experience of, you know, loneliness and isolation and trying to find meaning on the internet. There's certainly a lot more you can get out of this film, and I encourage you, if you have seen this film already, please let me know what you got out of it, because it's a super interesting watch. And I don't think that this is a film for everyone, because it is very slow, and it is also listed as a horror movie, which I think probably gave a lot of people the wrong impression when they went into this. But yeah, I encourage you, if you're at all interested, to give it a shot. I think it's really fascinating. You might enjoy it. You might really enjoy it. So yeah, give it a shot.
And you won't have any idea what happened to me.
All right, Jeanne Dielman. This is the film that's probably the most likely to get a full video from me talking about it. It's a hard film to describe, but it's a hard film for me to describe in a way that doesn't sound like I'm like talking down on the film or like trying to make fun of it, like I'm a Letterboxd reviewer. But the best way I can describe this film is that it's about a woman who does chores for 3.5 hours. And I realize that's like a poor description of the film, but I genuinely cannot think of a different way to describe what happens in it. The woman in the film is named Jeanne Dielman, clearly. That's why the film is called that. And Jeanne Dielman is a widow who is a sex worker, and you know, the entire film is about her cooking, cleaning, running errands, having sex with different men, but you don't see the sex. It's you know, it's behind closed doors that you don't get to see. The best way I can describe like the experience of watching this is that it feels like you're in the early days of cinema, when we would just like film people doing whatever, and it didn't matter what, story didn't matter, because motion was cool and interesting, and everyone only cared about, you know, oh my god, the pictures are moving. And so, you know, if you go into it with that mindset, I think you would have you would be more sympathetic towards what happens in the film, as in like not a whole lot happens. So that's just my way of saying this film's not for everyone. You know, it's boring on purpose, and some people are going to be super frustrated by it, and there's going to be people who are fascinated by it. I am on the camp that's fascinated by it. It gets you so fully invested in her daily routine that when something goes slightly wrong, it feels like a big moment. And it only would work if you just have most of the film just be boring. So if you have something small that goes wrong, it feels like a big moment. It feels like something huge is happening, even though it's like, oh, she overcooked the potatoes. You know what I mean? Like, it's so strange. It's a film that goes against everything that modern day narrative storytelling is supposed to be. But then again, like, thinking about the film's themes, like, I don't know how else you could get that across to the audience in a way that's effective, or as effective as this. You know, the entire film, she's doing something for the other men in her life, whether that's, just cooking for her son, or polishing his shoes, or doing sex work, and she doesn't have a whole lot of moments to just sit down and relax, or just chill out. I've heard people say that this film like hates its audience, or it hates being a movie, or any of these like hyperbolic statements, and I don't know if I fully agree with that, but I think there is some level of hatred here towards the way that cinema portrays women. I think that is something that is for sure in there. It acts in contrast to the way that women are often treated in film. Jeanne Dielman is very much presented as a person, not an object, but the other people in her life don't view her as a person. That the film works very hard to show you that. And now that I'm thinking about it, I don't think her son even like looks her in the eye throughout the entire film. There's just so much that can be derived from this one film that, like, I feel like me doing this small segment on it in this video is like doing a disservice to it, because it's just a film that has so many layers to it. You can just get so much out of it. And I think this is a film that you should be forced to watch if you're a film student, especially if you're, not familiar with this type of slow cinema. I feel like this is something they should show you like on day one of film school, and just like pick out who wants to be a filmmaker and who doesn't, or who's interested in this type of filmmaking and who's not. I think this is a good litmus test for that. For me, I think this is a film that is more interesting to think about than to actually watch. The themes it's discussing and showing on full display are just, it's fascinating, and it's an extremely well-made film. I have no desire to watch this again. Great film though. I don't want to sit through it again. I'd much rather think about the film, think about what it means, than actually watch the whole thing again from start to finish. Don't take that as me saying I don't like the film. I think it's great. Just no, not again. All right, so this is the only 2024 film that I will be discussing in this video. It's Fall Guy. And I guess this is also the start of the rest. This fits in nicely with the rest of the films that I'm reviewing, because they're all talking about like action films. They're all action films from here on out. But Fall Guy, it's a film first and foremost about stunts. It's a love letter to stunts. And in this film, Ryan Gosling plays a stuntman who tries to save his ex-girlfriend's directorial debut film, the ex-girlfriend played by Emily Blunt. And he ends up getting caught into a conspiracy revolving around the film's lead actor. This film is directed by David Leitch, who made Bullet Train, Deadpool 2, etc. And it feels very much in line with his other films. It has that same sort of, humor from those movies. So if that's not your thing, then this will not change your mind on his work.
Why me?
You're a stuntman. Nobody's gonna notice you. That's your job. No offense.
I mean, some taken.
But I personally, I think I'm a fan of his films. I like Bullet Train. I like Deadpool 2. I think Deadpool 2 is better than Deadpool 1, but that's just me. But I think this film really, really works because of Ryan Gosling and Emily Blunt. I think their chemistry is just fantastic. and they're both just so talented. This film would have still been a fun time if it was just like stunts. You know, if it was just like the Indiana Jones stunt spectacular at Disney, where it's just like all action and no character. But it was really the chemistry between Ryan Gosling and Emily Blunt that, you know, helped elevate it to being something a little bit more than that. And also the little stunt reel at the end of the film was just, it was so cool to see. I love seeing how they pulled off, you know, certain segments, and I think it's about time we get Oscars for best stunts, please. I think, you know, the stuntmen, you know, they deserve it, really. But this was a really fun time. I hope you guys can check it out now that's on streaming, or if it's still playing in a theater near you, please go check it out. It's a lot of fun. Police Story 1 and 2. I've decided to merge these, even though they're two different films, I've decided to merge them into one because what I have to say about them is the same. So for these films, the plot is simple. Jackie Chan plays a cop, and he has to stop criminals. You know, he's got criminals to catch. In part 1, it's a drug lord, and in part 2, it's him trying to figure out who's planting bombs around Hong Kong. Jackie Chan made these films as an excuse to show off stunts. You know, that is exactly what he did, and it works. It's an extremely fun watch, and the action scenes are just super impressive and exciting. He knows exactly where to put the camera so that the audience can fully appreciate the stunts, and also you feel like you're in the scene. You know, it's super immersive the way that he's able to capture this. And you know, it's a movie made by someone who knows what they're doing is cool. I just think about the big stunt at the end of part of the first one, where Jackie Chan is just sliding down the pole. You know, the famous one that he got like seriously injured from. That's like the main stunt of that film, and it ends right. There's a shot of him like sliding down the pole. And then it normally in any other film we'd move on from that. But in this film, it repeats to a different angle. And then it repeats again. It's like a live replay happening in the middle of the movie. It's like, let's see that again. I know you want to see that again. And one more time, here we go. It's just an amazing spectacle. He knows what he's doing. This is a man that knows how to entertain an audience. He knows what the audience wants. And you know what? More power to him. These were both extremely fun to watch. And if you're someone that wants to be an action filmmaker or like just loves action films, you owe it to yourself to check this one out. It's a blast. All right, so now we're at where we've reached the end, boys. We're talking about Bad Boys. Bad Boys 1, 2, and 3. 3 being called Bad Boys for Life. So Bad Boys 1 is Michael Bay's first film. And I don't need to explain who Michael Bay is. You know, everyone knows who he is. We've all seen the memes. We've all seen how people make fun of him online. But the one thing that you can't deny about Michael Bay, regardless of how you feel about him, is that he knows how to make things look pretty. And this film looks really, really good. You know, even though it's his first big film, it still feels like one of the most expensive movies I've ever seen. And that's just because he knows how to film things. He knows where to put the camera. He knows how to use color. He's got a brilliant mind for visuals. Story, not so much. The story here is very, very paper thin and almost just nonsensical, but you're not here for that. You're here to watch Martin Lawrence and Will Smith just do whatever they want. You know, you're here to, I don't know how much of this is improv, but I wouldn't be surprised if like 60% of their scenes together were just like made up on the spot. Their chemistry is just amazing, and it enhances the whole thing.
Damn, what do you win, 350? I bet you a big Popeye chicken eating motherfucker, ain't you?
Hey,
Get the fuck
I
out.
always got to get the big, thick motherfuckers.
The action scenes in this are just absolute nonsense. They don't make any sense when you try and break it down in like a filmmaking level, but they work. And it's just like the fast cuts, the shaky cam. It's exciting to watch unfold. It doesn't make sense though. Michael Bay is like an enigma to me, right? Because like on the one hand, I think from a technical standpoint, he knows exactly what he's doing. He knows where to put the camera. He knows how to do all of this. But his storylines don't make any sense. But I can't say I had a bad time watching this. I had such a fun time watching Bad Boys 1 that a couple hours later, I put on Bad Boys 2 because I wanted to see the next one. I was just so invested in this film and this world that I needed to see what happened next, even though I knew for a fact it wouldn't matter. These films could have just... You can call Bad Boys 1 and 2 two completely different movies. You might as well not even put Bad Boys 2. You might as well not even put 2 at the end of Bad Boys 2 because it feels like such a completely different film. Bad Boys 2, I don't even know where to start with this one. It's a movie that hates you. You know, I talked about Jeanne Dielman. Yeah, I made fun of, not made fun of people, but I talked about how like people are saying that that's a film that hates you. That's not a film that hates you. Bad Boys 2 is a movie that hates you. And it's made by a guy that hates everyone. You know, it's very clear if you watch like other Michael Bay films like Pain and Gain that he just hates everyone on the planet. This movie also feels like you know, he's trying to make fun of everybody.
We got our rights.
Why don't you exercise your right to shut the fuck up?
It's a very nihilistic film, and it seemingly just hates everyone that's not our protagonist. And it's so weird. This film is extremely violent. Our characters have zero interest in saving anyone. And they would gladly kill multiple civilians just to stop the bad guy. And the weird thing is, you might hear all of this and be like, these are criticisms. That could not be further from the truth. These are reasons why I think this film is great. You know, this is a true artistic expression from Michael Bay. There's shots in here that are just loaded with meaning, you know, regardless of if he knows what they are or not. There's so many strange things. Like, I don't know why I like this film so much, other than it feels so earnest as to who Michael Bay is as a person. There's a moment in this film where everything just stops, so Will Smith and Martin Lawrence can bully a teenager.
Who the fuck are you?
I'm Mr. Burnett. I'm Reggie.
What you doing here?
I came to take out Megan.
What?
I came to take out Megan.
How old are you?
I'm 15, Mr. Burnett.
Motherfucker, you look 30.
and it's like one of the best scenes I've ever seen in any big budget like action movie ever. It's, oh my god, it's so... This is like one of the funniest films I've ever seen. I love characters that are awful. You know, I don't know how else to explain that. And we follow two awful people doing awful things the entire movie, and it's great. This is one of the most entertaining films I've seen in a long time. It takes everything from the first film and just does it bigger. So it does like the standard sequel thing. It does what you should be doing with a sequel. You know, and that includes like having a much longer runtime, bigger action set pieces, all of that. It's just a bigger film. It's one of the biggest films I've ever seen. And Michael Bay is a true American auteur, as Patrick Willems once said. It's such an amazing watch. It's one of my new favorite films, I think, just for how chaotic and dark and mean this film is. But you know, then the next day I watched Bad Boys for Life, Bad Boys 3. And this is the only Bad Boys movie that I think cares about being a movie.
But family is the only thing that matters. So I'm not letting you go on a suicide mission alone.
You know, and it's because of that, it's the one that's the least interesting to talk about, because it actually wants to tell a story with emotional depth. you know, the action scenes make sense for once, and they have consequences for our characters, and you know, our characters have actual character arcs. It feels the most like a movie. That's what I'm trying to say. This is probably the one that general audiences will enjoy the most. I think Bad Boys 2 is the most divisive for how mean it is, and this one is like it's kind of really earnest in a way. It's so weird. It feels so disconnected from the other two that all of these films actually feel so different from each other. Like, this film is like kind of hopeful. Bad Boys 2 is nihilistic, and Bad Boys 1 is just like a standard buddy cop action film. It's just, I don't get it. But I should also mention that this is the first film not directed by Michael Bay, but it does a really good job of trying to emulate his own visual style. And it's just, it works. It's still exciting. The colors still pop. You know, it still feels like a big, expensive action blockbuster film. So I guess, you know, I guess it works. I guess it is a Bad Boys film. From a visual standpoint. Character-wise, you could make the argument that like, oh, these guys are nicer than they usually are. And, you know, that is true. And I do applaud them for, you know, trying to make Bad Boys have emotional depth to it, even though that's not why you're there. I think it's a well-done film, even if it's the least interesting one. Because of how just simple it feels. It feels very much like what you'd expect from a buddy cop action film starring two actors who are, you know, aging and who have been playing these parts for quite a while. You know, it makes sense that they would take this direction for this story. So I don't know. I will say that this film got me interested in seeing Bad Boys 4 whenever that comes out soon-ish. I don't think they're going to go back to the chaos that is Bad Boys 2, unfortunately. I think it's going to be more in line with this. But if it can keep up, you know, just the visuals of it and just have the same level of chemistry between Will Smith and Martin Lawrence, I think that's, you know, I think it'll be fine. I think it'll be fun. But yeah, that's it. These are the films that I wanted to talk about in this video. I hope you guys will check out some of these, if not all. If any of these sounded interesting to you, let me know in the comments. If you guys have seen any of these and want to talk about them, also let me know in the comments. I'd love to start a discussion about these films with you guys. But yeah, that's gonna be it for me today. I don't know why I said it like that. I made it sound like I had a video planned for tomorrow. I don't. But yeah, that's it for me for right now. I will see you guys in the next one. Long live cinema.